Morning. It's Friday, December 6th, 2024. I'm Larissa. Here we are. Fat Girl Diary. Skull has yet to arrive, but it is time, is it not? Time to anticipate the drinking from skulls. Yeah. A little tie-dye action here. This is a little homegrown tie-dye action. This one's kind of a blobby tie-dye, right? I made a bunch of spirals, but this one's blobby. So this one I made by folding it in an accordion and tying it up. I was out of gum band, so I had to use string. The string ones never work the same, right? Because the string gets saturated, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so this one's like a clown threw up. Blech. Yeah. Anyway, so yesterday I got some writing done. Oh, I've been procrastinating on writing, and I haven't. I've been procrastinating on this particular project. And I sat down and actually wrote the article yesterday, the one that's been like eaten at me. And um it's something very personal. And it's when I say that, you might think that I'm talking about something sexual or one of the things that's happened to me or whatever, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I'm talking about the oceans. But anyway, yeah. I don't want to give away the article when the issue comes out, then I'll talk about it more. But this issue in particular is it's hard. Anyway, so it's been strange being back on social media other than YouTube, right? Because the only social media that I've been on has been YouTube for quite some time. And I have an account now on Blue Sky. And I went back and forth about whether I was going to join or not, and then I went back and forth about whether I was going to stay or not, and I still am kind of on the fence about it. But it's interesting. You know, I left Facebook voluntarily. I had had enough of. I decided I did not want to consume Zuckerberg's product anymore. Right? So there are a bunch of policy things that happen, and all of the appearing in before Congress and TA. Look at him. Look at him. Mister, are you going to protect mommy from daddy? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Brody, is daddy giving mommy hugs? Stop touching her, he says. Right, stop touching her. Oh my God. Brody does not like it when Omar touches me. He doesn't like it. He has a fit. That was a mild fit. Usually, he jumps all over and horns in and pushes him away and then jumps all over him and kisses him. Like, here, daddy, I'll kiss you. You don't need to kiss mommy. Yeah, whatever. So where was I talking about? Oh, social media. Yeah. So, yeah, I left Facebook because I had it with the psyops and non-consensual market research and shady, shifty copyright issues and all that stuff, right? I was like, I fucking had it. Fuck you, Mark Zuckerberg. And then Instagram became really popular, and it still is. And people are like, oh, are you on Instagram? I'm like, no, it's a fucking Zuckerberg product. I don't want his products. The shit that he pulled was so ethically dubious. Forget about your morals. The stuff that he did was so ethically dubious with that platform. I didn't want anything to do with it, right? And once I feel that way about something, you're hard put to change my mind, right? Like, because it takes me a lot. It takes a lot for me to get to that point in relationship with anyone or anything, right? Like, I don't know. The bottom line, I was talking to someone recently about it. Bottom line is, I have to be able to be alone with myself, right? And the only way that anybody can be alone with themselves is if their conscience is clear and if they respect themselves, right? And I found that out a long time ago when I was a little girl, and I had no friends, and I never it was hard. We moved around so much. My parents yanked me out of so many schools and put me in different schools, and I was all over the place, right? So I was always in the position of either not knowing anyone or being the outsider and not having friends, and I had to be alone. And so I had to learn at a very young age how to be alone. And besides that, I was constantly being punished. I spent so much of my youth being grounded, being punished, go to your room, be alone, nobody wants to be with you. That's the way I was treated. And that's the way I was treated the entire time that I lived at my parents' house. When I was in college, my mother changed the locks on the house and didn't give me a new key. I came home from work and couldn't get in the fucking house. Right? Like that's the way I had to know how to be okay with me. And that's the only way. The only way to be okay with yourself is to be able to respect yourself. And the only way you can respect yourself is if you stick to what your ethics and values are. Forget about your morals. Morals can change, right? Morals can change based on new information, new experience, and new belief. The core morals basically stay the same, but they can change. Ethics and values don't, right? So, yeah. When So anyway, I left the Zuckerberg platforms and refused to rejoin them. And I joined Twitter. I was on Twitter, and I got banned from Twitter. I was banned from Twitter like 3 times, and before and after Elon Musk. And both times it was similar. It was for similar reasons. It was for talking about what happened to me, right? So like on that platform, you couldn't say anything negative about LGBTQ RSTUVWXYZ. Nothing. Even if it was about an actual thing that happened. So I was attacked by a transgender person with a needle, and I talked about it. And I was banned for it. I was reported by somebody claiming to be a trans person who said that it was hate speech for me to talk about what happened to me. Right? Yeah. And I found that distasteful. And so I went back to Twitter after Elon Musk bought it, thinking that things would be different because he went on and on and on about free speech, free speech, free speech, right? So in conversation, in Twitter dialogue with someone, the topic came up again, as well as this was at the time when Dignity Health abused me, and I was posting about that, talking about what actually happened to me, right? Facts didn't matter. So the fact that I talked about what happened to me, they said that I was not allowed to talk about my health care. That was the message. That was the correspondence that I got from Twitter before it was called X, when it was still owned by Elon Musk. I was not allowed that. It was illegal. They said it was illegal for me to talk about my health care. Why is it illegal for me to talk about my health care? I'm not talking about what happened. I'm not usurping anybody else's HIPAA rights. I'm talking about what these assholes did to me. I wasn't allowed to talk about the fact that Dignity Health abused me, right? Committed fraud. I was told that was hate speech, right? Dignity Health here in Santa Cruz called the police on me after I sent after when I sent when they sent me to collection because they were charging me additional money on top of the money that I had already paid them for I don't know what for $6,000 for two lidocaine patches. That's what I paid, and then they wanted another almost $400, and I didn't want to pay it on principal. And I tried getting an attorney, but no attorney would fucking talk to me, right? And um, I tried talking to the insurance company, and I told the insurance company that because they were saying I saw a doctor. I never saw a doctor, and they couldn't prove to me that they had actually taken any X-rays. I still don't believe that they did. Um, anyway, that's why I got banned because I tagged Dignity Health when I was talking about what they did to me and how they were charging me money for services that were not rendered, and that I was accusing them. I was saying it was because I was a pro-choice woman, pro-choice Catholic, pro-choice woman. I'm not sure that I consider myself Catholic anymore. I have no desire to go back to a Catholic church, and I think the Catholic Church is corrupt. And um, they disgust me. Yeah, the church disgusts me. Jesus doesn't disgust me. The church disgusts me. So anyway, yeah, I sent them. Finally sent them payment. It was $493 and some odd cents, and I sent it to them in quarters. And I smeared the quarters with Vaseline and X-Lax and put them in a big plastic box. And I had also sent them a box of coat hangers and Plan B and KY jelly and rubber gloves. I did, and a letter telling them that they could go fuck themselves. Anyway, yeah, because it was performance art. It was art. It was art. So after I sent them the greasy quarters, they called the police and said I was harassing them. So this bitch cop calls me from Santa Cruz police, and she's like you to know they say you were harassing them and blah 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 blah. And I told her what I said. Oh really? I said, well, you know what I think is harassment? And I told her what they did. And I said, I just want you to know this, woman to woman, this is what you're calling to reprimand me for. And she goes, oh, well, just don't do it again. I'm like, oh, don't worry. I won't be going back there for care anytime soon. But when I explained to her what they were complaining about and why I did what I did, I'm like, okay, bitch, I just want you to know as a woman, this is what you are calling to reprimand me for. To threaten me over, bitch. This is what you're calling to threaten me over. So anyway, yeah, Elon Musk, woman hater. Woman hater. Yeah. He hates women, he hates trans people. Unless you're a trans woman who claims to be Republican and has gotten away with killing somebody. Oh, yeah. I don't know who I'm talking about. If I had a rocket launcher. Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah. I was disgusted with social media platforms, and I was not interested in TikTok. Anything that I saw coming off of TikTok, and I knew I didn't want anything to do with TikTok when um, the news came out that when the U.S. military banned use of TikTok by service people that were active because use of TikTok was being used to triangulate location of bases or of where people were, and it was being used to like it was being used to attack service people, right? Who were active. So I knew I didn't want anything to do with TikTok at that point because there was back and forth between the U.S. military and the Chinese government over regulating and over some sort of like software stuff like it's like, oh, you gotta encrypt something, need to be encrypted. I don't know, I'm not a tech person, so I don't know, but I was following that story and I'm like, oh, I don't want to use that platform. That sounds pretty corrupt. The government is basically allowing this to happen. Oh, okay, I don't want to use that. I don't want to use that Chinesey platform that is putting American service people at risk. No, no, I don't want that. So that's why I stay away from TikTok. And then, all the stuff that has come out about TikTok since then, the um the rise and rate of depression, anxiety, and suicide attempts among youth using TikTok, and the drop in literacy rates across the globe since short media, right? Shorts, right? Like YouTube Shorts is kind of like a as a result of the popularity of short snippet media like TikTok, right? Because that's like the whole thing. Real quick, whatever. Um, so yeah, so I wasn't sure if I was gonna go, but I was curious, and it can be fun. So I have had fun in the past on social media. So I opened this Blue Sky account. It's been interesting. It has been. It's been very, very interesting. But I don't know if I'll stay or not. At first, the first couple days that I was on the platform, I was like, oh, I'm getting off of this. And but I was like, oh no, let's see how this evolves, and where does this go? And it's been interesting to watch and observe. Um, so there's a lot of it's still very, very trendy or popular to, like, when you're insulting somebody because of their beliefs or whatever, to call them a Nazi. And I was thinking about that. And it's like, well, here we are. There's still a few World War II vets out there, old, but there's still a couple, right? And there's definitely people who remember that conflict, particularly Europeans, I'm thinking, and Japanese people, um, who were children at that time or whatever. Um, so, there's still that's still part of the of social consciousness, right? In real time. But there will come a time when there will be nobody alive who was alive during the time of the Nazis, and the word Nazi itself will evolve. I mean, the word is the term is evolving now. It's like the way it's used. It's like, oh, thinking back to like Seinfeld, the soup Nazi, this kind of thing, applying this word to mean somebody who is militant or whatever, and eventually the word will become. I was thinking this morning. I woke up this morning thinking about this. And eventually, the word Nazi is going to become like the word barbarian. And I've been thinking about language a lot. I always do. But the other day I was talking about this book that I read to somebody, not on here, but to a person. This book I read, Abusive Language, Abusive Power, and why I came to read that book, how I came to read that book. And I came to read that book because the Catholic Church was retranslating the Bible, um, and liturgy and prayers and things, right? They were retranslating, and there were some big changes that were made. And the small words can make big differences, right? What's the difference between all and many? It's a big difference. All and many there's a big difference. Anyway, while this translation was happening, I was following very closely all of the stuff that was coming out of the Vatican and all the different, philosophical talks and everything and theological talks and articles and yeah, I was real nerdy over it. I'm still kind of nerdy over it, but I just don't follow it, so I don't follow it closely anymore. But a lot of people were referencing this book, Abuse of Language, Abuse of Power, in the conversation about the retranslation, because it wasn't a translation, it was a retranslation. I'm like, what the hell is this book? So I went out and got it, and I read it. And then in this book, they were talking about the Consolation of Philosophy. They kept referencing that. And I'm like, well, what the hell is this book? And that's how I came to read the Consolation of Philosophy. Anyway, thinking about language and this word and the word Nazi and the evolution of the word Nazi, what it actually meant, national German National Socialist Workers' Parties. I don't know what it means in German, but that's what it's because it's an abbreviation. Nazi's abbreviation. It's not a word. Yeah, German Nationalist Socialist Party, Workers' Party. Yeah, yeah. So anybody out there all proud to be a socialist, good for you. You're a socialist, just like the Nazis. Just like the Nazis, literally. Mm. You're closer to a Nazi than what most of the people are that people call Nazis these days, right? And I've met actual neo-Nazis, right? I've been threatened and harassed by actual neo-Nazis in my life. Yeah, nobody likes to hear about that either. So, watching memes, he's a Nazi, this is a Nazi, they're a Nazi. This word barbarian. And the word barbarian, people like don't even know what that word means, right? And I did a little Google search on barbarian this morning just to see what came up, and it was interesting. The overriding definition that Google offered for barbarian was a member of one of the great civilizations, Roman, Greek, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, that's not what that word means. That's not what the word. So barbarians was referring to North African peoples that were fighting with the Roman Empire, the Berbers, called the Berbers, Berber people, and not all Berbers are black. Some are, but the language, the word barbarian comes from the language that the people spoke, the Barber language, and that sound bar 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 was a common tone and sound in the language, right? Like if you were listening to it but didn't understand it, you'd hear bar 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 bar, like accent, whatever. And so they were called the barbars. They were making fun of their language, and they were peoples who, unlike the Romans with their aqueducts and you know high level of sanitation or whatever for the time period, these were people that lived in primitive ways with primitive weapons and were considered cruel and particularly violent, right? Um, Many Berber people today are Muslim. Not all of them are, and not all of them were then either. Um, yeah. So that's where barbarian comes from. But it's just interesting to me, like that word. If you call some, oh, you're a barbarian now, it's like it just means somebody violent and crude, right? But there's so much more to it than that, and it's and the definition that Google gave when I did a little search this morning was just interesting to me because it wasn't accurate at all. Are there many people alive today who have ancestry of both Berber and Roman and Greek? Yeah, because there was a whole lot of fucking raping and pillaging, and probably some people that just actually fell in love across cultural lines, right? And had children. The mixing of the gene pool. So today there are people with those mixed heritages, but those cultures were separate. They were clashing cultures. They weren't the same culture. Interesting. So, someday the word Nazi will be like barbarian. I'm watching it evolve that way. The word Nazi. It'll be forgotten that it was actually an abbreviation. It wasn't even a word. It was an abbreviation of many words. You know. Yeah, no, I have come face to face with actual neo Nazis here in the United States, um, members Aryan Brotherhood, on more than one occasion here in California and in Michigan, and in Michigan as a teen and young adult. Yeah, I didn't live in Michigan that long as a young adult. I mean, when we moved out here, I was 21, 22 years old. 22, 21, 21. We moved to California, 20, 21, 22, 22. 22 because I'd had one birthday. I was 21 when we got married, and I was 22 when we moved out here. Yeah. Or was I 22? No, I was 21 because Omar was 23 when we got married. And he's 2 years older than me. Yeah. Think about language. As a writer, or when I'm writing, language language is kind of an important thing, important part of writing, right? So it's something I think about a lot. Hmm. Choosing words. Mm. So I have two more articles to write right now, and I'll probably work on at least one of them today. Who knows? Maybe I'll get both of them written today. We'll see. Yesterday was my first day being open from 1 to 8, and there's more foot traffic in the evening, um, and more people I saw more people walking by, and I also saw more people stop and just like look in the door. Um, During the day, people just walk by, and there's not as many. But the restaurants and everything, especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday, busier. So Thursdays and Fridays, I'm gonna be open from 1 to 8. So maybe we'll start seeing people coming in. We'll see. I don't know. Had a sign out in front of the store yesterday. It said, "You can't be taken seriously complaining about tariffs and empty storefronts in your hood. Buy American. I make everything for sale at one of." And tariffs are going to be a financial hardship on a lot of people, and it's because of our dependency on cheap foreign slave manufacture. And the tariffs will affect so many parts of everything. You think about how many things say made in China on them, right? But I think the goal is to force the hand of Americans, right? Um, and to encourage American business and American manufacture of things. And I saw something about China saying that they are going to ban the export of certain metals, including gallium. That's interesting. So, like, gallium is used in making screens, these screens for things like Google Glass. That's really interesting. That's like an interesting rebuttal to that, because China is seeing this as spanking China. This isn't about spanking China. This is about um, refocusing. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, But I see it as an opportunity to refocus Americans' priority in America, and American business. And as somebody, as an American who makes my products, right? There are some materials in my products that are not made in America. Um, uh, I guess it was, about a week ago. They haven't arrived yet. It was before the strike. I ordered I ordered some materials that are things that you don't buy used generally. They don't exist used because once you use them, there's no reusing them unless you melt them down. It's metal. And it's something that, like, if I had my metal studio set up and had all my tools, things that weren't stolen, if I replaced tools that were stolen and things, I could make them, but I'm not set up to make them. Head pins. Um, can I make them? Yes, yes, I can. That's pretty easy. But so I ordered them. Um, so things like that. But that's going to be everything across the board. It's going to be everything. Oh, you go to Michael's to buy your yarn to crochet. Where's all that acrylic yarn made? It's like, how many things are actually manufactured here in the United States? And people don't those jobs are looked down upon, right? Manufacture jobs. But they fuel economies, right? Or people say, oh, well, they're polluting. Well, you still use the products. You just don't want the pollution that comes from them in your yard. And we have all these regulations here about pollution when it comes to manufacture and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, you're still using the product, so that pollution is still happening somewhere. So, this is an opportunity to force ecological innovation and fuel American manufacture for American economy, and that's what makes a robust economy. When you buy products that come from the businesses in your neighborhood. Who are the people in your neighborhood? In your neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you, so let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well stay. Say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Oh, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers. He was like my only friend for a very, very long time. He was. When I was a little girl. When I was a little girl, we were still living in Pennsylvania, living in Pitcairn. Every day I watched Mr. Rogers on PBS. And I was so excited to watch Mr. Rogers on PBS. He was my only friend. Even when I went to preschool, the kids did not like me. I didn't have, the kids picked on me. I remember one time, I had a sty. I had a sty in my eye. And it was around Christmas time. We did this, we made Christmas ornaments. That was the craft that day. We made Christmas ornaments. We used cookie cutters that were Christmas shapes and we rolled out Play-Doh and stamped the Play-Doh and then cut out I had a dove cookie cutter. That's what my ornament was. My Play-Doh ornament was a dove, and you had to poke the little hole, and leave the toothpick in while it dried, so that you could put your string through to hang it on the tree. And and we did other things to decorate it. There was painting and stuff, and that happened after it dried. And then we hung it on the tree, and then we got to take that ornament home with us for Christmas, right? I had this sty in my eye, and when we were working on, like, the kids wouldn't sit next to me, and they were making fun of this sty and saying that, oh, calling me a monster and like all this stuff. So I sat by myself and made my ornament, and then we had like free time where we were allowed to go play, and there were boxes, big boxes of toys and things, blocks and games and trucks and cars and stuff, that you could play with. And I got a couple trucks and like dump trucks and cars and stuff, and I went and there was a piano, and I went and wedged myself behind the piano and sat there and played. And when I got home, it was almost time for Mr. Rogers, right? Like, he was my only friend. He was my only friend. And we used to the preschool. There was they'd take us out for walks in the neighborhood, and they'd put us on this long leash. It was a long leash, and then there were they hooked onto our wrists, right? It was like one big long leash, and then you would wrap. They would fasten a piece of the leash around your wrist, and we would walk down the street together, and we were all tied together, right? Walked around the block and looked in store windows and stuff before, and we go back in. Um, and there was a park. There was a park that was down the street that sometimes we'd go play in. Um, but the kids used to complain about having to stand in front of her and back of me at on the leash at Kitty College. It was called Kitty College. It was preschool. It was run at, I think it was an Episcopal church. I think it was. Yeah, but it's like that's the way that's the way my life always was. I don't know why those kids in preschool didn't like me. I have no idea why. I mean, I look back, I'm like, I don't know why those kids didn't like me, but they didn't. And then we moved around a lot, and anyway, Mr. Rogers was my only friend for a very long time. Mr. Rogers and ugh, this broke my heart. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby with picture pages and Fat Albert. Oh my God. And when the Bill Cosby thing happened, that I cried. I'm gonna cry now thinking about it. That was so hard for me. That was so hard for me. I'm like, really? Bill Cosby did that? Oh, it was just like, as a sexual assault survivor, and you know, me as a child who those were him, Mr. Rogers, Bill Cosby, and Bob Ross were my best friends. Pee Wee Herman, those were my friends because I didn't have them, right? But the Bill Cosby thing, that really. Bill Cosby, you let me down. You let down so many children. And I'm not talking about children today. I'm talking about Gen Xers. Anyway, I was watching a clip. Mr. Rogers is getting around there, watching a clip of some guy from somewhere in Eastern Europe who had never heard of Mr. Rogers before, which is like, kind of blows my mind. Maybe like he was seeing Mr. Rogers for the first time. And I'm just like, yeah. And he's like, oh my God, this man, he's so wonderful. I'm like, yeah. A lot of American kids grew up with Mr. Rogers as their only friend. I'm one of them. Social media. I wonder what Mr. Rogers would be like on social media now. Right? He'd probably stay away from it now. I think he was on social media before until he died. Until he passed away. Was he? Was he on Facebook? Mr. Rogers? Was he on Facebook? I don't know. I don't remember or not. If he was or not. Mr. Rogers. Oh. I miss the days when you had friends that were actual people. I don't know when well, I guess I had some friends in high school. I think that might be the only time in my life when I actually had some friends was in high school. It was the only time. Before that and after that, I haven't. There are people that I knew in college, but I didn't really have friends. I didn't have time for them. I didn't have time to have friends. I had to work. Yeah, I had to work. I worked 4 jobs. I didn't have time for friends. And people used to think I was snobby because, like, at lunch and stuff, I would stay and work in the studio, but it was because I had to, because you know, I didn't have time to go out and do the social stuff with people in school. And then I wasn't allowed to, living at home, I wasn't allowed to go do the social stuff at school. I'm going to go do, no, you're not. Oh, okay. Yeah. I really got screwed out of a youth. I did. I really did. I got cheated out of a youth. I guess a lot of people have, though, right? It's like I didn't grow up in a war zone, wasn't cheated out of my youth that way, but I wasn't allowed to have a life or friends or anything. And I was I was like Penny Pendleton in Hairspray. I was perpetually punished. Yeah, perpetually being punished for existing. Oh, my mom used to tell me growing up she didn't like me. I don't like you. I always love you, but I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't like you. So it's like, okay, nobody likes me. I'm used to it. It's okay. Um, but with her, like my parents were first married. They had a rough time. They were very young. They had a rough time, and their priest told them to have a kid, right? And that would save their marriage by having a kid. So they had me, and then my mother just resented me because, I ruined her life. I made her fat. I ripped her perineum. I was a liar. I wasn't just a doll. She used to call me Dolly and dress me up like I was a doll, but I wasn't a doll. I was an autonomous human being, but she didn't want that and she resented me. And the only reason that they had me was because, didn't believe in abortion and the priest said it would save their marriage. So, like, I never, I knew that story from a young age and, oh, not wanted. And everybody in my family fought. My mother's family hated my father's family. My father's family hated my mother's family. They all hated each other. They all talked shit about each other. Everybody fought. There was always screaming. There was always crying. Eh. So I always said I wasn't going to have kids. From the time I was 6, 7 years old, my mom would laugh. Oh, you'll change your mind someday. I'm like, no, I won't. She didn't understand why I was saying I didn't want them. Because I didn't like the situation I was in and I didn't want to bring anybody else into that situation. My life was horrible from that early on. It was that miserable that I knew I didn't want, because I also understood even from that early age that what genetics were, right? And I understood that if I had a child that it was going to be a lot like me, and I wasn't um acceptable. And I never was. I wasn't ever acceptable to my family. The only way that I was acceptable was if they drugged me into oblivion where, you know, I was a flat, pliable blob that didn't do anything or have any feelings or have any opinions, right? It's the only way I was acceptable to them. Why would I why would I want to make another human being that would be like me? Even if I like me, others don't. So why, out of love and compassion, why would I create somebody just to be abused the way I've been abused? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I've always known. I've always known. Yeah. And my family situation is so fucked up now. It's just like, why would I want to bring in an outsider, right? Like to adopt? I don't want to expose anybody to that, right? I mean, if you're in a position of being adopted, you're already in a fucked up situation. Why would I bring you into another fucked up situation? Just make matters worse. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So I make art and I write. Hmm. And it's a better, more productive use of time than being a junkie like my mother-in-law, right? Making everybody's life miserable. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. It's like anything I've ever worked for or wanted has been destroyed, right? Or taken from me or denied of me. People say, "Oh, don't you love having your studio?" Blah blah. No, I don't, because I didn't want it there. It was something that I did at home, right? Like, no, my artwork isn't fun. It's work. My artwork's not fun. It's work. And I just get sick and tired of hearing that shit. My having my business is a shitty consolation. It's a shitty consolation prize from being gypped. Yeah, literally, literally, not even figuratively, gypped by my gyp family out of career and relationships. It's my consolation prize, and people like to insult me over it. Tell me that I'm lucky. Oh, you're so lucky. No, I'm not. Not at all.